Good morning. Good morning, YouTube land. Hi, everyone out there. How are you doing today? It is Monday, the 26th of August. This is Candace Craw-Goldman. Thank you all for joining me. By the way, if you are a BQH student, is that camera going to do this the whole time? Maybe. It just shifts the light. I don't know why it does this. There may be a setting on there I can change. Anyway, if you're a BQH student, I'm getting ready to do a live webinar at noon today, my time. It's 10:38. So this YouTube live is going to be rather brief because I need to get ready for that webinar. The invitation is, of course, in the student category on the Quantum Healer Support Forum, and I will check that as I'm getting ready for the webinar, but I cannot check it after the webinar starts. So that's happening today, here in just a little bit. So if you're a BQH student and would like to join us, today's topic is trance states. And for those of you who don't know, the BQH course increases in content every single month with information of all kinds, but at least one and sometimes more than one live webinar that, of course, the recording is put within the course itself. So every single month, the course gets bigger, has more content, and becomes more relevant. So hi, yeah, I see some BQHers here joining me. Good morning, good morning. Hi, Susan. Hi, Karen. Already said hi to Jolie, I think, or I did in my mind anyway. Nice to see you all. Hi, Annie Club. Hi, Annie. Good morning. Hi, everyone. Okay, so I want to get right to what the topic is. The energies and timeline. And I'm going to be brief today. I'm going to try to stick at half an hour for this broadcast today because I've got a lot to do. I was out of town this weekend. I went to Kansas City. My husband works on and off in Kansas City, and we have a little place where we can stay there. I don't get up there that often because my dad and my farm, the animals are here, and that's mostly my job to take care of all of that. Of course, I have clients and sessions and work and all of that. But every once in a while, I get myself up to Kansas City, and over the weekend, and this weekend, I got to do that. And I had a marvelous time in a number of ways, but it was more than just having fun. It was amazingly large for me this weekend, and I didn't expect it to be. And I think it has, well, I know it has, to do a lot with what's going on energetically with the planet, with all of us. But I wanted to tell you about what that was like for me this weekend. So one of the things that's happening to us is our third eye, or our abilities, or our connections, or our gifts. We're coming online. You've heard this from a number of different other teachers, other speakers, other way showers. We are accepting more of who we are, what we can do, how we can interact with the world. But these are just concepts, right? And for a lot of sometimes very newly awakened people, these concepts, they don't have a lot of application. People are like, well, what are you even talking about? And my weekend and what I want to share with you today perfectly illustrates this what I want to talk about, which are two things. Our energy, our abilities opening up and all of that, but also the timeline collapsing. And I'm not the only one who's talking about this. Timelines are collapsing. And what I'm finding what they're doing is they're collapsing in groups. So they're like gathering up. So we always have this ability to shift timelines. And as a matter of fact, if you listen to some other speakers, teachers, Bashar in particular, he talks about how you're shifting timelines constantly. He'll even say things like a billion times a second or whatever. I mean, it's more than our human mind can comprehend. It's certainly available to us all the time. Dolores Cannon, I had an amazing dream, and I have a teaching in an article, I think out there somewhere, I call version states. She called it version states more than just like timelines. And every thought, every emotion, every decision that you participate in that runs through, you know, your own self and your personality brings you to a different state, a different timeline, and your entire your body shifts constantly like that. You are in a different body constantly, even second to second. And there's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to talk about there, but it's true. And one of the things that we can do is open our minds to this possibility. And the more that we open our minds to the possibility, the more that we notice what's going on with us in these regards, the more choice we have, the more options we have, right? So I want to talk about all of that and use myself as an illustration. So I got to go to Kansas City, and for me, that's a lot of fun because even though it's a hike up there, it's 3.5 hours or so for me to drive from here, from our farm in Kansas. I get to leave the chores, the cooking, the caring, that kind of stuff, at least for the farm and my dad, to others. I get it all set up, and somebody else takes care of all of that so I can get away for a little bit. But that also makes it harder for me to get away. There aren't too many people who can take care of all the critters that are here at our farm. Anyway, so I head up there, and the first thing we do is we have a wonderful night out with some friends. And what's really interesting is the combination of the people who are there. And the combination of people who are there set us up exactly for being able to talk about some things than if a different combination of people were there. And we ended up talking about the Mandela effect. And as we were talking about the Mandela effect, and quite frankly, I had more stories about all that from myself and from clients than most of the people at the table. But there were others, absolutely, but mostly I was talking. And the really, really interesting thing is what I saw happening while I was talking was the people who were near us, who weren't even sitting at our table, were sitting at a big round table. And I was very aware that there were people around who were listening to some, if not most, of what we were talking about. And it was so obvious to me, even when they weren't looking, even when they weren't overtly, physically, for somebody looking at them, being able to, looking at us and listening, etc. And I even found people's energy halting when they would speak. So as an example, there was a couple, we were sitting at a big round table, and there was a couple over here, and there was a man and a woman, and the woman was quite interested in what we were talking about, but the man wasn't. And she kept trying to be polite to whoever it was she was there with. It seemed like her partner, but she wanted to know what we were talking about. So she was answering him and she was talking to him, but her attention was divided. Now, what was really interesting for me energetically about that, not only that, of course, that somebody's interested in the subject, who knows, maybe the husband's not interested in that, maybe she's intensely interested in that. But what was so clear to me was her divided attention, right? She was looking straight at him, not at us. But I could absolutely feel and sense her divided attention over here while I'm doing what I'm doing, which is conversing and interacting with the people at our table. And so that was so stunning to me. I started to pay attention to some others around us. And of course, I wasn't looking behind me because I wasn't going to be rude. But it was more than just that one table. And my sense was, and as I'm seeing this, as my sense is going around like this, the attention and the picking up of the energy of our table and what we were talking about was picked up by the energies of the tables around us in varying amounts. As an example, because I noticed her first too, with this woman, she had the most interest in what was going on at our table. And I felt the energy of sort of locking on and paying attention to what we were doing while she's talking again and looking at these other people. It was fairly strong, but some of the others, the energy was maybe not as direct or strong. And I really had some time to think about this later. So, possibly and probably her conscious mind was quite interested in what we were talking to. It seemed like she was even trying to listen to what we were talking about. The other tables, although I was watching some of the energetic and there was pieces where there was listening, it may not have been conscious listening on the energy from the tables around us. Does that make sense? It was like they were just sitting in the energy of the room and the energy of our table, and even being in a circular table, I found that amazing. We weren't in a corner, we weren't in a booth. So that circular energy of our table as we shared stories and did all of that spread out into the room. And I was intensely aware of how the room was reacting to the energy of our table. And we weren't, again, overly loud, right? So that was amazing. So that was an energy thing that happened. So the next day, we had just a fabulous day planned. The first part of the day was art museums, a couple of different ones, the Kemper that's up there in Kansas City and the great big one, the Nelson Atkins. And so museums for, a good part of the day. And then the latter part of the day, we picked up a good friend and went out to dinner. So it was very, exciting day for me. And then after the dinner, we went to the cutting horse show. So for me, it was just perfect all the way around. Lots of metaphysical talk, art, horses. With my husband, I was having a blast. I was having a really great time in Kansas City, and the weather was quite lovely, and I had just an amazing time. Anyway, so what I want to get to next is what happened the next morning when we went to the art museum. And we kind of do the same thing most of the time, go into the Kemper first. It's a smaller museum. And then from there, move over to the Atkins and, take in what's happening over there. So the thing that happened at the Kemper happened immediately from the time I opened the door. So I'm walking in, I open the door, and I'm just hit. It wasn't an odor, right? It wasn't a visual or anything like that, but I open the door and it's like, whoa. I'm completely taken over by the energy in there. And I'm already going, wow, okay, what's going on here? Now, just, as a little bit of a background here, I feel energy like most of us do, but, I also live a very basic 3D human life. And what I was noticing being in Kansas City was just how, and I've always felt more energy and a lot more things happen in cities, but nothing like this last weekend. Nothing is specific, nothing is tangible. And I was very aware of what was going on, and it was stopping me in my tracks a lot of the time. I was having to process. So I open up the door, and I'm thinking, well, I wonder what the show is in here. And there were some great shows in there. There were some great pieces in there. I had an excellent time. But what I started, um, whereas the interaction was coming the night before from people and conversation, what happened to me beginning at the Kemper and then heading on over to the Nelson Atkins had to do with the art. Now, for those of you who don't know and have not heard me talk about it before, I took art in school. I got my bachelor's of fine arts in drawing and painting, and I even got my master's degree in painting. And that's the direction I was headed in my early 20s. Now, back then, was the early 1980s, the way you could be an artist, you couldn't be an artist like you can now, which is all over the world, right? Back then, and of course you could be an artist, and I take that back, but you couldn't find your tribe. You couldn't, hobnob and go to shows and be in that world unless you were near others who were doing the same things in a very physical way. You just couldn't. Of course, you could be an artist on your own, and you could travel and you could do things like that, but not in places like, heck, here I am in rural Kansas, right? And so I was married, and still am, to the same man who he was at the time, and in the Air Force. And so we were moving quite a bit early on. And even when he got out of the Air Force, we actually moved even more. So we were on the go a lot. And it's going to sound kind of sad, but I kind of gave up early on. I gave up going, well, I just can't even do this. As a matter of fact, we lived in New Jersey for a while, and I could see sometimes the skyline of New York City, and I couldn't get there. I just couldn't get there. I couldn't get there physically. I couldn't get there financially. I was a mother of two children, and it just didn't work out. It was so difficult, and rather than trying to do everything, I just kind of went, well, I guess I'm not being a painter. And that's kind of the way it worked. Did I paint? Yes. Did I continue to paint? Absolutely, especially when my kids got older. I picked up painting a lot when they got back into elementary school, and even had some shows and some nice success in Pennsylvania. I did, but I had to make choices, as we all do, right? So anyway, art has been something that I just kind of fit in here and there since then, and especially since doing the quantum healing work and, discovering Dolores and working with her for all those years. And then after her death, running the quantumhealers.com, I've been, and it just keeps chugging away, and then BQH. And so, I've been focusing on that and ride horses when I can, see art when I can. But my big focus has been the quantum healing work. So back to where I was in the art museum. So I was going up to the art pieces, and just like I knew what was going on energetically with that woman and the different tables in the restaurant, when I would go up to the different pieces of art, it was almost like, most of them, there were sculptures, but most of them were, wall pieces. It was almost like there was a semicircle or a half circle energetic zone, and I would walk up and I would enter into that zone in front of the art piece. Gosh, I'm almost emotional about this. I got so much more information from the individual artworks than I ever have before as a human and an artist. It was nearly overwhelming. And it was different for each piece, and for some pieces more than for others. But I was so overwhelmed, and I have to say, my husband's having some trouble with his knee. He actually was sitting out. He was sitting out reading his book. He's very supportive, but this way I get to go on, go in my pace. And I'm doing this alone. And it was good that I was doing this alone. I didn't have to explain myself to anyone. I started just bawling. I mean, I'm crying in front of each piece. Now, this isn't because I'm loving each piece or I'm, attuned to each piece or anything like that. I was so overwhelmed with the information, the feelings, and the energies coming from each and every piece. It was as if I was some sort of, being from another world, just experiencing this kind of stuff for the first time. I was absolutely floored. I was absolutely floored about what it was like to go through there. And then, as I'm having this reaction, I'm thinking, well, of course, we've been talking about this. We've all been talking about the opening up of our senses, our abilities to sense things, to connect to energy, right? We're all working on that, or most of us are anyway. And it was so obvious and overwhelming to me in the art museum, and I couldn't help the tears. They were just coming down, and a couple times some sobs, and I tried to keep away from most people so they didn't worry about me, etc. But it was just amazing, and I felt so many things. I felt things like the energies of the people who hung the painting. I felt the energies of the friends of the artist. I felt the energies of the environment of the artist, of the support system or not of the artist, of the food that they ate, the cigarettes that they smoked, the drugs or drinks that they had, standing in front of these pieces. Now, not, in giant specific detailed waves or, notations, but in waves, and some more than others. Absolutely. Some were more austere, some were more. There was a taxidermy piece at the Kemper. There's probably no way you can. I really, really wanted to be able to. One of these days, I'm going to figure out how to share a screen doing these live YouTubes. I will figure it out someday, but I'm constantly doing some other things. But I'm going to see, even though these are lit images on my iPhone. I'm going to see if I can't show you a couple of these. So, okay, here's this taxidermy piece. I think if I show the photo sideways, you can see it. Yeah, you can. So this is a sideways. So let me see. I'm trying to keep the glare off of it. So this was a taxidermy piece. This is a tree, dirt, and there's stuffed peacocks there, and then also stuffed pheasants. And the peacocks are poised to sit in this tree, and the pheasants are poised to hang, as as in dead game birds. I mean, obviously the peacocks are dead too. And hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining me. So anyway, this piece was pretty amazing to me. So, most of you all have heard me talk about not only my connection with animals, but in particular birds. I have a real connection with birds. This one was tough for me to deal with. And I don't mean because I felt sorry for any of stuffed animals there. That wasn't it. It just was, there was a lot, and it was very big, and there were different taxidermy pieces of it, including the tree. Right? It was a live tree at one time, plus the dirt and everything. And I'm such an outdoor person anyway, that I couldn't be in that room for terribly, terribly long. It was simply overwhelming, the amount of the information that came to me. And then I found this one was amazing. So I love this artist. This is an artist named Wayne Thiebaud. He paints these luscious paintings. Those are pies and cakes. And what I loved about it, it was put right next to, yes, the cafe and the restaurant. It was like, oh, it was perfect. And with this piece standing there, right there, you know what the most overwhelming, it was almost a vignette. I was with the people who were hanging this with their ladders and their levels and their tools, and they're giggling about how it's the perfect place, of course, to hang this painting. I mean, it was so palpable, these things going on. This is not every day, all the time kind of thing for me. At least it hasn't been. So these are the kind of energies going on, right? And it's already after 11, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about timelines this next part now. So all of the energies. Oh, I want to show you this too because, well, a couple of things. So I moved on to the Nelson Atkins, and I mostly was moving on because of this guy and this show. This guy's name is Jean-Michel Basquiat. Basquiat. There's different ways to say his name. He was a New York artist who died at age 27. So he was obviously, most of you can tell, he was a graffiti artist, but he was one of my big influences in my own paintings. And I was really looking forward to the show that he was in. And it's a traveling show or one that just, I don't know if it's traveling or if it's the Nelson Atkins put it up, but it was very well attended. Here's another piece of his that was there. And some people looking at it. And I was really looking forward to seeing his stuff. But the show itself was called, I believe it was called 30 Americans. And it was mostly African-American pieces. No, it was all African-American pieces. They're all African-American descent pieces. And most of it, of course, was about their personal experience. And that's how it made the show. Let me get back. I've lost my place again. But there was a piece in there. There were many pieces, and I could talk a lot about it. I mean, there's a giant bale of cotton. There were so many. I just have such goosebumps even just talking about this. But yeah, I can't talk about this show without talking about this piece. So this is an installation piece. And watching the energies of what was, gosh, I'm getting choked up even thinking about it. Watching the energies going on around this installation piece was crazy. Can y'all catch what's going on here? So it's an extra little room. There are these columns, make it look like a gate. You walk in there. There's a noose. There's stools. There's hoods. It was an interactive piece too. You were asked to write things about this. And I was watching and I was feeling and I was sensing and I was all of that while this was going on. And I was watching who would go into this room, who would not go into this room, what would be said energetically to each other. I wasn't eavesdropping, unless it was obvious. But I mean, what was exchanged between mother and child or friends or all of that. And as I'm watching all of this, I actually have this woman come up to me and she starts standing next to me. And this was a woman, she was probably about 20 years older than me. And I wasn't making any sort of attempt to, head up to somebody to chat with them. I'm still being overwhelmed with everything that I'm being overwhelmed with. And she just starts crying. She's like, and she starts telling me about how she couldn't stay there to really look at the whole show the last time she was there, but she'd come again so that she could see it again. And she was still crying. And it was just astonishing. Everything about the energies was astonishing. And what I really loved was watching just the crowds. And the crowds were heavily African-American, but there was plenty of other beings represented there, of course. I didn't think about this till just right now. I'd be able to make this. Wow, this is powerful. I did not feel any seething or palpable anger. in this show from the people who were taking it in. I felt rather a grace and forgiveness, and it was beautiful. I mean, you know, we talk so much about race in the movies. There was a lot of healing going on in there. There wasn't a lot of separation between I'm this, you're that, you can't know, but there, you know, I don't, you know, there was none of that. There was none of that I could sense. Now, you know, how long did I stay in there? You know, I had a very busy day. I wasn't in that show for more than, let's say, half an hour. So I have a half-hour slice of what the energies were in there. Could they have been different other times? Of course. But my energy pulled me in during that time. I was there doing that with these particular groups of people, and it was amazing. So I left, and on my way out, like any good consumer, I stopped by the gift shop. And I actually stopped by the gift shop too, because they had by that show, I bought a tiny little Jean-Michel Basquiat. It was almost like a flip book or a kid's book for my own children when they were babies a long time ago. And they had this little thing by the show saying, you go to the gift shop and get these things. And my kids destroyed this little thing many years ago. And I'm like, I'm going to go get one of those. And it said, you know, last day or something, big sale, all of that. And so I go, and sure enough, they have almost nothing. They have almost nothing. Almost everything's been picked up. The table's at the end of, you know, it's got its pickings and stuff. And I couldn't get the book. And I went around the rest of the shop, but there wasn't anything I was really particularly interested in. And I was getting ready to go do my next adventure, right? And I haven't even gotten to the timeline part yet, but I will. I know it's been about half an hour, but I'm going to definitely talk about that here in a second, because it all kind of fits together, at least it does for me. Anyway, they didn't have that little book. They didn't have that little book. And they had like some other things, some books and some refrigerator magnets and some other things. And from all of the artists there, not just this particular one. And I didn't see anything from him, by him, none of that. And so I was headed out, and the old intuition kicked in again. And the intuition says, just go back and look at that table again. And I go back, and I see that on the edge of the table, I hadn't seen it before. There was like this black bar, and they had scarves tied there. And I looked, and the scarves are images from a number of people who were in this show. And there weren't very many of them. I think there was 4 left. Well, this was one of them. This beautiful piece was one of them. And this was a splurge for me, folks. This is a silk scarf. It was way too expensive for me to even consider when it was on the table, regular price. But they were getting rid of everything, and it was the last one left, and everything was half off. And even then, it was a little. I had to gulp a little bit. But I love this artist so much, and it's going to set me up for the timeline talk. I love this artist so much that I bought this. This is one of his. Just love this this artist so much. So, you know, I don't have a print. I'll not very often get to see his work in real life, but I'm going to be wearing this. I kind of like it. Kind of looks okay with my shirt today, doesn't it? Okay, anyway, so then we left the museums, getting ready to go eat dinner, getting ready to go to the horse show, right? So I'm all done with this, except for I'm not really done. I'm processing everything that has gone on for me that day energetically in a lot of different ways. But in this way, I'm just so excited about this. I can't stand it. In particular, I miss making art. I miss making art a lot. I'm writing. I'm in the middle of, in the beginning of 2 different books. I'm in class development. We're doing stuff with quantumhealers.com. We're creating an app, everybody. If you haven't seen that, go to the forum. If you're a part of our membership, go to the forum. We're creating an app that will put everything together and do alerts and all kinds of stuff. And I mean, we are so busy. I'm so busy with the farm, with my dad, with everything else. I am so busy. I have never kind of allowed myself. 1 block from where we were staying is an art store. Artist and something supply. Plastered all over their windows. 50% off back to school sale. I went in, salivated a little bit, did the same thing energetically with the art students in there and all of the possibilities of all of that art stuff. And my husband, bless his heart, he's like, well, and I'm like, oh, get some of that. And I'm like, and do it when, right? And he's like, maybe you shouldn't think of it that way. Of course, he's starting to, say the things that we say as practitioners to clients. So I go in and then something suddenly clicks for me. And now we get to the timeline thing. I don't know if I have time to paint, to get back into creating art. I would like to do it at least a little bit. Here's where we get to the timeline collapsing thing. The choice had to be made. I knew it. The choice had to be made for me about creating art that day, right? Are you going to pick the timeline where you're doing all of it? When you're, I'm writing, I'm supporting practitioners, I have my own clients, got the farm, and I have, my horses, whom I just, adore and don't spend enough time with them. And I have completely, lopped art out of art making, out of my life. And this is that part where I want to talk about the choices thing. It became very clear to me. Choose today whether or not you want it a part of your life. Now, that doesn't mean I have to cancel everything this week because I have a very full week of other things, including that webinar, which is coming up in 45 minutes. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to have to get off here in just a couple minutes. But I bought 2 big bags of art supplies and brought them home. And I moved some furniture in another little room over there. And I'm going to give myself the opportunity to sit in that little art making space and get back to it. Yes, I am. And some of this is a big full circle thing for me, a big full circle thing. So a lot of what this was, when I first got into art, I was painting about all of the soul desires and energies and creations and stories and all of that. That's what I was painting about. I didn't have vocabulary for it. I didn't know what it was all straight from here to canvas, right? Set that aside, been doing the quantum healing stuff with beautiful clients and beautiful practitioners out there, and sharing all the information and the knowledge and other way showers and just people who want to talk about this stuff. And what's happening and has been happening for a while is a lot of that is comes in a visceral way with feelings through the body, but also with things like imagery in my own head. It has to do with light, has to do with shape and geometry. You all know this. You've heard this, during meditations, the things that happen in meditations or in sessions. And that was always, even though I didn't know it at the time, it was that kind of stuff that inspired my painting. It wasn't, my painting wasn't political. It wasn't, it wasn't still lives. It wasn't, it was this thing that I couldn't even barely describe it. And now it's all come around like this. And I doodle like crazy, especially during sessions. I doodle. The raw material for what I want to paint, I've been collecting all of this time that I haven't been painting. And I've got brand new pots of paint. And I got some paint sticks, and I got I'm so excited. I don't know how and when I'll actually get to dip my fingers and hands into it all. But I talked to my husband. I'm like, I'm commandeering this spot in the house. I don't know how often I can paint, but I have to leave it there and be able to, I can't get it all out and put it all back because I'm too big and messy. And I have been known to paint very large, although I did get small supports. And I think it'd be just fabulous, by the way, those of you who are quantum healers, to have, we are connecting all of the things that we're able to connect with your listings now, right? So your Instagram, your Facebook, your YouTube, your courses and stuff. And I have like an Etsy store, or even what's that, Zazzle, the t-shirt one, when I was back doing a lot more art and designing. And I have ignored all of that for a decade or longer. But it's all right there, and I can revive it. And when we get this app together, we'll connect it all in one place. All in one place. All your stuff, all your videos, all your classes that you want to teach, all the classes you want to take, all the things you want to create, your jewelry, your artwork, your whatever. We're putting it all together in an app. We've been working on this for like a year and a half. So much is still left to do, but so much has been done that we've just started step one for you guys, and it's called single sign-on. And for those of you who have been with us for a while, you know that the forum sits in one place and the directory sits in another. And that's because we had to use the platforms that we could afford and were available to us. And there does not exist anything that we've always wished there existed. So we're creating it, and we're creating it for all healers. So we want to support you in the way that you want to present yourself to your clients. And we're using current technology to do that. And we're a long way away from all of it being available, but we're doing step one right now, which is single sign-on. So everything will be in one place, even though it's still in the same platforms. No more two different logins. That's what single sign-on means. Log into one and you'll be there for both. Yay! For those of you who've been around for a while, you know that could be a little hairy. Hey, even for me, truly. So, all right. So it is 20 after 1. I'm going to see. I'm going to see if there's anybody who wanted to really ask me something, or I'm going to scroll through what you've said. I know you all have been commenting and talking with each other, and I've just been trying to hurry and tell all of this story. Alba's here. Alba and the It's You Guru girls went to Dimensions of Disclosure, and I tried to catch up with everyone, but that was, of course, during all of this was going on with me in Kansas City, and other things happened this weekend, and it was just, I couldn't make it happen. But there's a lot going on, and this connectivity thing doesn't just have to be like, well, that's a whole different subject. I can't get there. But I want to thank you all for spending some time with me. What I really want to do, and I will be doing this, I promise, I'm going to take this computer into that other room and show you pieces in progress, some of my inspirations for some of this. Technology these days has given us such an incredible opportunity. Of course, it can be addicting. Of course, it can be limiting in some ways, but it also can be an amazing way to connect and learn and understand and share things. And I want to share some of my artwork. Again, back when I was a mom in her 20s with 2 little kids, and there wasn't even cell phones back then, people. I couldn't do any of that stuff. And it hurt, man. I mean, it hurt. I saw a lot of other women who just just giving it all up. And there were some people who gave it up for good and even said things to me like, yeah, you'll never get back to it. Oh, yeah. I'm in my late 50s, but I'm getting back to many things that I had to set aside for a while. Dolores Cannon used to say, I talked to a practitioner, I don't know if she may even be listening right now, but I talked to a practitioner a couple of weeks ago, and she was talking about being older and how some of these newer, younger, beautiful people, Allison Coe, It's You Guru girls, some other quantum healers, Jessica Delmar and Ron Amit, and I mean, these young, gorgeous, smooth-skinned, younger anyway, people out there with lots of energy and should we even be trying? And I remember some people asking Dolores this, back in 2009, 2011, that, all the way up to her death in 2012, there'd be people in their 50s or 60s saying, Dolores, gosh, can I really start a practice now? I mean, look at me. I need to retire from my other job. And she would just laugh because she would call people in their 50s babies. She would call people in their 60s teenagers. I mean, she really would laugh. She just hit her stride in her late 50s and early 60s, the one that lived to be in her mid 80s, right? And she's more loved now than ever. So don't let age stop you. Your dreams are always able to be revived. You just never know. Thank you all for spending time with me. I am going to have to go. I have to gather up myself for the webinar that starts here in half an hour. I will accept whoever's registered in the next few minutes, but after that, I'm going to have to close registration and really get down to it. Again, today's topic is trance states, and the topic next month is marketing makeovers. And we'll see what happens after that. Thank you all so much for your support and being here with me and with each other. All right. That's it. Make your choices now, everyone. That timeline, make your choice, right? I don't have to go paint today to have made my choice to put artwork and art creation back into my life. Matter of fact, I probably cannot with everything I've got scheduled today. There's probably no way I can, but I have made decisions and I have taken steps and I have done physical things to put that bit of what I want in my future, in my timeline, by actively setting it up. I made space in my life for art creation. Physically, mentally, emotionally. And I am thrilled about that. I'm so thrilled about that. I feel like a giddy teenager who just got my first real set of paints. And that energy feels wonderful. So what floats your boat out there? What did you used to get excited about? What do you miss? What would you like to have back in your life? Do a little bit of it now. Take some steps towards that now. Another thing I want to do is a little better body condition. And I've been making steps towards a daily exercise, not just every other day. I've been doing a daily exercise habit. I'm locking that one in too, because I want to live a number of more decades. Because I got a lot to do. All right. Got a lot to do today. Thank you all for joining me so much. Love you.